Kuroda Yusai, a first-year high schooler, leads an unremarkable life. Average in grades and sports, he's never had a girlfriend and tends to avoid eye contact with girls altogether. During class, he sits quietly, lost in thought. Nearby, a friend starts a conversation, mentioning Shirakawa from Class 2, calling her stunning. Another agrees, praising her looks, fashion, and perfect grades. They turn to Kuroda for his opinion. He shrugs, admitting she's attractive. One of them teases him, saying even if he's not into girls, that reaction is just wrong. Another jokes about the fantasy of getting close to her, while the one with glasses insists she must already have a boyfriend. Kuroda chuckles awkwardly, silently thinking that someone like her is far out of reach. Later, he walks down the corridor and spots Shirakawa. She doesn't notice him. He watches for a moment, quietly accepting that they belong to different worlds. On a quiet June evening, Kuroda heads home alone. Living by himself, he's used to grabbing convenience store meals. As he approaches a mart, something unusual catches his eye. A small girl crouched near the entrance. She looks like a preschooler, and he assumes her mother must be shopping. Still, something feels off. Inside, as he shops, he keeps glancing toward the entrance. No adult shows up. Concerned, he steps outside and kneels beside the girl, gently asking if she's waiting for her mom. She starts crying, saying she was playing in the park and didn't want to be found. It hits him. She got lost during hide and seek. He softly places a hand on her head, trying to calm her. He asks if she was told what to do if she got lost, but she shakes her head, apologizing through tears. Kuroda offers a kind smile and suggests they go check the nearby park together. The moment she sees it, her face lights up. She shouts with joy, recognizing the place. Another child immediately spots her and runs over, yelling that she's found Natsuno. The friend mentions hide and seek, but Natsuno just waves and says they'll play next time. As they part ways, Kuroda suggests she can stay and play longer, but Natsuno insists she's heading home. Her sister's making sweets, she says, and proudly declares she knows the way. He follows as she skips ahead, confidently guiding him to a house. She points at the door, saying, "That's home." They ring the bell. The door opens. Standing there is none other than Shirakawa Ayano. Her expression crumbles as she sees her sister, and she pulls her into a tight hug. Tears fall as she scolds her for being late. The little girl apologizes quietly. Noticing Shirakawa, he quickly bows. He explains how he found Natsuno at the store and helped her. Flustered, he adds that he didn't do anything strange, but she reassures him, saying she can tell just by looking. Kuroda blinks in surprise when she says his name. She remembers him from their first-grade elective class. He's startled by her memory and inwardly panics, imagining what the other boys would think if they saw him here. He tries to leave, but Shirakawa gently grabs his sleeve, asking him to stay. She wants to thank him properly with tea. Before he knows it, he's inside her house. She bends to bring out a pair of slippers. He mumbles a polite greeting, but his gaze accidentally lands on her sheer clothes, catching a glimpse of her light blue undergarments. Embarrassed, he looks away. She notices his pause but doesn't press, cheerfully asking him to come up. Inside, Natsuno calls from the other room, urging them to hurry. Kuroda sits at the table, still trying to process that he's in the home of the most admired girl in school. A moment later, Shirakawa returns with a plate of cookies, heart-shaped and homemade. She apologizes for the wait, hoping they suit his taste. Kuroda hesitates, asking if it's really okay. She assures him it is and places another plate beside him, saying these ones are for Natsuno. Shirakawa looks at Kuroda and says she wants to properly thank him. He replies that this already feels like more than enough. She gently insists, saying sweets feel a bit lonely on their own. He reassures her that everything is perfect. Trying not to make things awkward, he picks up a cookie and thanks her before taking a bite. His eyes light up. It's genuinely delicious. Her face brightens as she asks if he really means it. He nods, praising the taste, which makes her sigh in relief. When he asks why she was so anxious, she sets down freshly brewed coffee and admits, a little nervously, that's her first time getting sweets to a boy. That gets his attention. He blushes, repeating, "First time?" She explains she's never had a boyfriend, so this was a new experience for her. Kuroda looks surprised, mentioning that's not what most people say. She softly explains how rumors spread and how not everyone views her kindly. He understands, popularity comes with its own weight. It's not all admiration. There's jealousy too, and despite her composed appearance, she probably carries a lot quietly. Just then, Natsuno sneaks her tiny hand onto Kuroda's plate, trying to swipe another cookie. He catches her and asks what she's doing. She pouts, saying hers are already gone. Shirakawa quickly scolds her, reminding that those were meant for Kuroda, but he brushes it off, saying it's fine. If he says so, Shirakawa lets it slide. He jokes that Big Sister gave the green light, making Natsuno smile and call him kind. Shirakawa quietly agrees, saying she's glad. Kuroda, still flustered, finds himself thinking she's called the most beautiful girl in his grade, but her warmth makes her even more special. Natsuno then announces she's going to water the flowers. Shirakawa stops her, asking if she thanked her big brother first. Natsuno admits she forgot, then runs up to Kuroda and bows, thanking him properly. He smiles and gently tells her not to worry her sister so much. She nods and runs off. Now alone, both Kuroda and Shirakawa are left in a brief silence, awkward yet soft. Trying to break it, he glances outside and asks, "Hey, what's in the garden?" Shirakawa responds, telling him not to call her Hey and to use her name properly. He says her name, but she points out that her sister is also Shirakawa. He quickly corrects himself, calling her Shirakawa-san, and asks if she grows flowers. She nods, saying she likes them. When he asks if watering them is a hassle, she says not really. He reflects briefly. Natsuno seems to have inherited that love for flowers too. Shirakawa heads outside to help in the garden, slipping off her cardigan and calling out to her sister for the hose. Natsuno, already watering the plants, turns around too fast, accidentally spraying Shirakawa head to toe. Her already thin clothes become completely see-through from the water. Shirakawa yelps from the cold. Natsuno immediately apologizes. When Shirakawa glances down and then catches his gaze, she asks if that's what he meant earlier by light blue. Embarrassed, he denies it, but she covers herself and calls him a pervert. Flustered, he quickly says he should be going, and thanks them for the day. As they walk to the door, Shirakawa says she was surprised when she saw him and Natsuno together, but also relieved. She thanks him sincerely. Then, almost hesitantly, she asks why he went that far. After all, kids get lost often, but she explains when she was young, she was nearly kidnapped. The police intervened, but the experience left a lasting fear. She didn't want Natsuno to suffer anything like that. Kuroda apologizes for bringing up painful memories, but she assures him she's truly grateful. He tries to downplay it, rubbing the back of his neck, saying he's not especially kind, but she gently insists not everyone would have done what he did. He stammers again, saying he just happened to be there. She smiles, accepting that answer. He thanks her for the cookies and heads out, walking down the road. As he walks, he thinks to himself, he never expected that returning a lost child would lead him to meet Shirakawa Ayano. But starting tomorrow, life will go back to normal. Just then, she calls out to him, "Wait, Kuroda-kun." She jogs up, slightly out of breath from running. With a soft smile, she looks at him and assumes, surely there's something he wants to do, right? Shirakawa leans down slightly and asks if there's something he would like to do together. Kuroda blinks, caught off guard, and asks what she means. She gently explains that after everything he did for Natsuno, offering just sweets doesn't feel like enough. He tries to brush it off, repeating that it's really fine, but she steps a little closer, her voice softer now, asking if there's truly nothing else she can do, anything at all. He stares at her, stunned. Why is someone like her being this kind to me? It doesn't feel real. He quickly shakes his head, insisting again that it's okay. But she doesn't give up. "If it's for you," she says with a smile, "I'd like to help somehow." Panic sets in. This has to stop, he thinks. She starts pleading now, asking him to tell her just once how she can return the favor. Her tone drops, sincere and quiet. He finally blurts out that there's really no need, but then adds, almost without thinking, "Well, maybe cleaning." She perks up immediately, bright-eyed, and says she'll do it. She'll clean his entire place. That only makes him more nervous. He fumbles over his words, saying his house is a disaster and it'd feel wrong letting her do that. But she laughs it off, insisting it's no big deal. She even says his room too. It's fine, just leave it to her. How about next Sunday? He hesitates, then asks if she's really okay with that. She nods and pulls out her phone, suggesting they exchange contact info. He asks why all of a sudden. She explains that she'll need directions, otherwise how would she even find his place? With that, he gives in. They swap numbers. As the screen lights up with her name, a single thought crosses his mind. If the guys at school find out about this, I'm finished. He tells her he'll send over the address, and she smiles, saying she'll see him on Sunday. When the day finally arrives, It's 9:55 a.m. Kuroda glances at the clock and sighs, thinking it's about time. He knows he can't turn her away now, but he still wonders why she even wanted to exchange contact just to clean his room. Sitting in front of his laptop, he hears the doorbell and gets up to check. Opening the door, he finds her standing there. She greets him with a cheerful good morning, and he returns the gesture. She holds out a small bag and says she brought sweets in case his family's around. He explains his parents are away on business and that he lives alone, thanking her anyway. Taking the bag, he quietly notes how different she looks in casual clothes, almost like she's another person. As he gets lost in thought, he quickly snaps back and bows, apologizing for making her come all the way. She brushes it off, saying it's really fine. He invites her in, and as she steps forward, she pauses, tucks her hair behind her ear, and admits it's her first time entering a boy's room. He responds that he's never had a girl over either. She hums, a little surprised, and he suggests they go inside instead of lingering at the door. She nods with a soft, "Let's go," and soon enough, she's standing inside his room. Her expression changes the moment she sees the state it's in. Garbage bags, stacked cartons, barely any space to walk. She looks around and asks if this really is his room, sounding more baffled than offended. He confirms it's his house, laughing nervously. She murmurs that it's a bit messier than she imagined. He jokes that he's been living like this for a while and doesn't really mind the clutter, but her wide-eyed look says otherwise. She points out bluntly that the place feels more like a haunted house than a living space, which he says is kind of harsh. Tying her hair back with determination, she takes a deep breath and declares it's time to get started. Shirakawa begins sorting the trash efficiently, separating bottles into one bag and miscellaneous items into another. Kuroda watches and remarks how fast she works. Holding a plastic bag, she calls out to him, telling him to pick up the books scattered across the floor. He quickly agrees and starts stacking them. As he lifts one, he pauses, recognizing a title he had been meaning to read. Flipping it open, he gets distracted. She appears behind him and reminds him sternly whose room they're cleaning. He mutters it's his. She follows up by asking what their top priority is, and he answers sheepishly, cleaning. She tells him she won't let him slack off while she's there. He promises to stay focused, and she nods, saying she's counting on him. A while later, the room looks much better, neatly organized, though a few full trash bags still remain. Kuroda suggests they take a break, and she agrees, setting a book aside as she leans back against the bed. She asks if living alone is tough. He admits it can be, but says he treated it as a rare life experience. Though clearly he hasn't handled much housework, she chuckles and teases him for suddenly speaking so formally. He thanks her sincerely, commenting that the room feels a lot neater. She tells him not to get ahead of himself since they're not done yet, and he quickly responds that he understands. Inwardly, he's surprised to realize he's actually enjoying this, despite being terrible at cleaning. As they sit, she spots an old snack carton and pulls out a melon pan, eyes widening when she sees a year past expiry date. He picks it up, laughing as he recalls stashing them away and completely forgetting about them. She giggles too, then teases him, if it's so tasty, why not open it and try? Even if it's been expired for a year, he freezes then quickly apologizes, clearly defeated. Inside the carton are several melon pans, far more than anyone needs. Shirakawa scolds him lightly, telling him not to overbuy, wasting food is pointless. He nods, accepting the reminder. As she stands, she comments that he's even more misunderstood than Natsuno. Her eyes drift to a shelf, where something catches her attention, a small, worn bookmark. Beads of sweat appear on her forehead as she picks it up. Curious, she asks about it. Kuroda notices and explains that a girl gave it to him back in kindergarten. He doesn't remember her name, but calls her his first love. Shirakawa asks what the girl was like. He recalls she always kept to herself, never playing with anyone. The memory pulls him back to those early days. He had walked up to a quiet girl sitting alone, holding a ball. He asked why she wasn't playing with the others. She calmly said she liked flowers. He smiled, saying he did too. Her face lit up, telling him how much she loved them. Something about her kept drawing his attention. Then one day in class, the teacher announced they'd be making bookmarks. While the class responded cheerfully, the quiet girl asked if she could use real flowers from the garden bed. The teacher smiled and approved, calling it a beautiful idea. But when she rushed outside, she found the flower beds torn up and empty. A few kids mocked her, calling her a loner and creepy. She broke down in tears. The teacher gently suggested drawing flowers instead, but she couldn't stop crying. Watching it all, young Kuroda felt a deep sadness. He suddenly dashed out of the school grounds to a spot he knew had wild blooms. Gathering as many as he could carry, he hurried back and handed them to her, saying she could use these to make her bookmark. The girl stared at him, surprised, then simply turned and walked away, leaving that moment sealed in his memory. He had called out after her that day, asking her to wait. She turned with a soft smile and thanked him. He remembered how he had asked if they could make the bookmarks together. From that point on, the two of them began playing more often. That memory lingered as he returned to the present, wondering aloud how she might be doing now. Brushing off the nostalgia, he suggests they resume cleaning. Shirakawa stands silently, still holding the old bookmark, her expression unreadable. Something shifts in her mood as she softly repeats the word treasure, fingers tightening around the keepsake, because it was the very bookmark she had made in kindergarten, though Kuroda has no idea that the girl standing beside him is his first love from back then. Time passes, and before long, the room is spotless. Kuroda looks around, amazed by the transformation, and admits it's been ages since the space looked this clean. He thanks her for all the help, saying it must have been exhausting. She waves it off, noting that it really was messy, then casually asks why he never tried cleaning earlier. He shrugs and explains he's often busy, not with clubs, but with part-time work. She nods, reminding him to take better care next time. He promises he will. With a satisfied grin, she walks over to the study table and notices something still lying on the floor. As she bends to pick up the paper, he suddenly reacts with alarm, calling her name. But she already has it in her hands. Her eyes scan the words. It's the beginning of something handwritten, a quiet confession from a boy who sees himself as an ordinary high schooler, alone and friendless. She lifts her gaze and asks if this is a novel. Kuroda turns pale, trembling with embarrassment as she holds the draft. When she asks if he wrote it, he practically crumbles, muttering that he's been exposed. She tilts her head, confused by his overreaction. In a flustered mess, he blurts out that the only thing he ever wanted to keep hidden were his light novel drafts, stories he posts online. He describes himself as a gloomy loner, writing about a guy like him who somehow ends up with the most beautiful girl in school. He printed this one to enter it in a rookie competition. The worst-case scenario in his mind has become reality. She calmly asks what genre it is. He hesitates, then asks if she's ever read a light novel. She shakes her head, admitting she hasn't. He tries to explain, stumbling over his words, calling them stories written by oddballs, young people with too much time and imagination. But she keeps reading, fully focused. He panics, convinced it's over for him. Then she looks up and asks if he likes anime too. He admits it, along with manga and light novels. To his surprise, she says it all sounds fun. Overwhelmed, he raises his voice a little, apologizing immediately for getting too excited. But she just smiles, saying it's nice to see someone passionate about what they love. He still calls it weird, but she disagrees. She doesn't know much about it, but says she'd never mock someone for their interests. Glancing at the draft, she asks if it's finished. He says it's not. He's still struggling with the second half. She tells him she'd love to read it when it's done. He hesitates, unsure. She asks if he's embarrassed, and he finally admits that's part of it. Then, after a pause, he confesses that once he starts writing, he loses track of everything else, including chores. She connects the dots immediately. That's why his place was such a mess. He nods. She folds the paper and smiles, telling him that from now on, he'll have to balance housework too. Kuroda stretches and says he's finished. Shirakawa hands him a trash bag and echoes the same. She stands, brushing off her hands, and says she's done cleaning too. And now she's getting hungry. Kuroda checks the time and mentions it's already past noon. She asks if she can check his fridge. He warns her not to expect anything good. She crouches in front of it, opens the door, and stares in disbelief. It's completely empty, not even a snack or leftover in sight. There's nothing in here, she says, stunned. Kuroda scratches his head, saying he'll need to restock it. She didn't expect it to be this bad. Without hesitation, she says she's heading to the supermarket. He looks at her, a little thrown off, then says he'll go too. She nods, saying it's more fun shopping together anyway. They leave the house and start walking down the street. She asks if he ever shops there. He admits he rarely does, since it's out of the way, but notes that it's cheaper than the convenience store. She says at least he pays attention to prices. He glances around, feeling eyes on them, and mumbles that people might be mistaking them for a couple. His face turns red as he looks away. She notices and teases him, asking why he's blushing. He tries to brush it off, but she steps closer and gently lifts his face, checking his forehead. Maybe he has a fever, she wonders aloud. He stammers that he's fine, definitely not sick. Then she asks again why he's red. He silently panics, thinking about how she touched him so casually. Struggling to find words, he mutters that it's nothing important. She squints at him, unconvinced, but lets it go as they walk into the store. Then she asks with a small grin, "So, what do you want to eat today?" Kuroda says he doesn't have any preferences, so Shirakawa asks if he'd rather have meat or fish. After a moment's thought, he settles on fish. She leads him to the seafood section, warning that picking fresh fish takes skill. At the fridge, she points out tips. Check the eyes. They should be deep black, not cloudy, and inspect for moisture on the body. Kuroda listens, impressed, and she grins, promising a veggie lesson next time. With bags full, they head home, Kuroda carrying everything despite her offer to help. He insists it's a guy's job, so she declares she'll handle the cooking and make it his best meal yet. Once home, he unloads the groceries, breathless, and casually blurts that she'd make a great wife. Caught off guard, she turns red, laughing it off while internally panicking at the sudden compliment. Still flustered, she hides her face and focuses on cooking. When she serves the meal, it looks and smells amazing. They sit down, thank each other, and dig in. Kuroda's blown away by the taste, and she lights up hearing his praise. He jokingly calls her a goddess, making her cover her face again in embarrassment. As the meal ends, she reminds him to clean up properly, and he promises he will. That night, with a head full of fresh memories, Kuroda sits at his laptop. Words come easily this time. He uploads a new chapter of his light novel and nervously waits. But the responses pour in. Comments, praise, and reading list ads all spike, more than usual. For once, everything feels right. The next day at school, Kuroda busies himself with class duties while his thoughts wander. He still can't believe Shirakawa came to his place, cleaned his disaster of a room, and even cooked for him. It feels too surreal, almost like a dream. After spending lunch break cleaning and dealing with chores, he hopes there's still bread left in the cafeteria. Lost in thought, he turns a corner and suddenly collides with someone. Both fall to the floor, apologizing at the same time. As he scrambles up, he realizes it's Imagawa Meiko. Trying to sound casual, he apologizes again and calls her by name. She's surprised, asking how he knows it. He fumbles, nearly blurting out something embarrassing, then recovers by saying he just remembers all his classmates' names. Internally, he panics. He almost said it was because she has the biggest chest in class. While she picks up the papers she dropped, he kneels to help and spots a light novel among her things. He recognizes the heroine on the cover, mentioning she's pretty popular. Meiko looks up, eyes wide, and asks if he reads that too. Kuroda admits he hasn't read it, but thinks the series seems original. She presses further, asking if he likes anime and manga. He nods, saying he watches a little. Her excitement bursts out. She clutches his hand and suddenly asks if he has time to talk. Her energy surprises him. Meiko excitedly leads Kuroda into the manga club room without explaining much. As they step inside, she suddenly exclaims how much she loves anime, manga, and light novels, unable to contain her passion. She says she dragged him there just to talk about them freely. Kuroda, a bit overwhelmed, remarks on how deep her love runs. She beams, listing her favorite genres: fantasy, rom-com, anything really. Holding up a light novel, she confesses that every time she sees the heroine, she wishes she could become her. Kuroda teases her, saying she sounds like a middle-aged man, and she laughs, replying that she only empathizes with main characters, never background extras. He grins, clarifying he didn't mean it like that, but inside he's flustered. She then mentions being hooked on web novels lately. When he asks which ones, she eagerly pulls out her phone, finds a title, and shows it to him. His eyes widen in shock. It's his. The story she's hooked on is the very light novel he's been secretly writing. She gushes about how she loves the heroine and wants to be spoiled just like her, completely unaware he's the author. Kuroda is torn between feeling proud and deeply embarrassed. She continues, explaining that cute, earnest heroines make the story worth it, and she raves about the latest chapter update. Trying to change the subject, he glances around and comments on the posters in the room. Meiko nods, saying most of them were put up by the senior members. Meiko points to a poster and shyly shares that she got it as a limited edition bonus from Anime Toy. When Kuroda asks if she shops there often, she admits she's never actually been to a store like that in person. She always buys online. It's too embarrassing to go alone. He suggests going with her club seniors, but she explains they all prefer shopping solo. After a short pause, she hesitantly asks if he'd go with her instead. He's caught off guard but agrees after seeing how earnestly she asks. She brightens instantly and proposes they go that very day. Hirata says he has a part-time job, but they can still visit before that. She thanks him enthusiastically. Later, just as he's leaving school, Shirakawa stops him in the hallway and asks if he's heading out. He confirms, and she suggests they walk home together. His heart sinks as he tells her he already has plans. She recalls he mentioned work before, and he awkwardly fumbles with his excuse. She goes quiet, then apologizes for asking so suddenly, and wishes him luck at his job. He quickly calls after her, asking if they can walk home together next time. She turns back with a soft smile and agrees. After school, he meets Meiko, who brushes off his slight delay. He notices something's off and asks if she's okay. She hesitates but assures him everything's fine, though he senses she feels a little uneasy about his mood. He tells her he almost couldn't make it, but now he's fully here. Her expression softens and they head off together. The moment they step into Anamido, her eyes sparkle like a child's. Surrounded by shelves of light novels, she lights up and says the place is magical. Kuroda grins, saying that's the charm of stores like these. There's always something new to discover. Meiko suggests they explore more, and they begin browsing together. She enthusiastically picks out item after item until he raises a brow and asks if her wallet can handle it. She laughs, admitting he has a point and promises to hold back a bit. Then she notices he hasn't picked anything up yet. He hesitates, lifting a novel and explaining that he'd like to get it, but he's low on funds, and the series is pretty long. Without missing a beat, she offers to help cover the cost. He's surprised and tries to decline, but she insists. It makes her happy to support fellow otaku. Grateful, he thanks her and she gently tells him there's no need to be formal. When she asks where they should go next, he checks the time and apologizes. He has to head to work. She says she'll leave too, and he offers for her to stay longer if she wants. But she admits she's still a little anxious being in there alone. Plus, she's already splurged enough for one day. Outside, as they prepare to part ways, she stops him and shyly asks if they can exchange line IDs. He nods and they trade contacts with smiles and mutual thanks. As he walks off, she wishes him luck with his job, and he waves back with a grin. Elsewhere, a girl scrolls through her phone, eyes narrowing. Her shift had lined up with her senpai today, but now she stares at a photo, confused and suspicious. At his part-time job, Kuroda finds himself once again paired with Ikuta Yurina, a junior from a different school. She saunters over, menu in hand, joking that since he's on shift, she won't have to lift a finger. Kuroda, already used to her antics, snaps back that she still has work to do. He thinks to himself how she constantly finds ways to avoid her duties, usually with an excuse like needing to check Instagram, and today seems no different. As they stand by the counter, she accuses him of staring at her. He denies it, but she pushes, teasing him playfully. Trying to shut her up, he awkwardly admits he only noticed that her uniform suits her today. She grins, saying it's only natural to be drawn to her since she's so cute. He groans, warning her not to say things that might cause misunderstandings, but she just brushes it off and heads off to take orders, leaving him questioning why she's always like this. During his break, the manager approaches and tells him to rest up. Curious, Kuroda asks what he thinks of Ikuta. The manager replies that she does her job well and might even be drawing in regular customers with her charm. Kuroda grumbles, wondering why she only slacks off when he's around. Just then, Ikuta suddenly appears from behind, smirking as she calls him out for slacking off himself. Even though she always nags him, Kuroda catches Ikuta slacking off and calls her out. That sparks another round of bickering between them, loud enough to draw the manager's attention. Watching the two argue, the manager just chuckles internally, thinking how nice it is to be young. He tells Ikuta to take her break too, together with Kuroda. She seems delighted. Kuroda, not so much. His mind drifts back to April, the first time she walked into the restaurant. The manager had introduced her as Ikuta Yurina, a new hire. She greeted him politely, and he nodded back, not thinking much of it. Later that day, she approached him, asking if there was anything she could help with. Surprised she was talking to him, he hesitated, but she explained the manager said to ask him directly since he'd be training her. Accepting the role, he walked her through the basics, taking orders, carrying plates, and working the counter. It was a hectic day, the kind that never seems to slow down. In the middle of the rush, he heard a sudden crash, and turned to see dishes shattered on the floor. Ikuta stood frozen, her hands trembling, eyes filling with tears. A furious customer stood nearby, yelling that his meal had been ruined. He berated her for wasting his time, complaining about how he made time in his busy schedule only to be served disaster. Ikuta could barely speak through her tears, repeatedly apologizing as the situation grew more intense. Ikuta stands frozen, overwhelmed by the customers yelling, her mind blank from panic. Kuroda steps in calmly, addressing the man with a respectful bow and apologizing sincerely. He promises a replacement dish immediately and asks the customer to wait just a moment. Not long after, the food is prepared again and both Kuroda and Ikuta serve it together. The customer grumbles, questioning the dessert on his tray, and Kuroda explains it's complimentary as a formal apology. Though the man accepts it, he mutters insults under his breath, calling them useless kids. Kuroda stays composed and defends Ikuta, saying she's doing her best and mistakes happen. When the customer pushes back, he reinforces that it was his responsibility as her trainer and that she's working hard. Later, during their break, Ikuta sheepishly apologizes again, blaming herself for the chaos. But Kuroda cuts her off gently, insisting she doesn't need to feel guilty. He says she's still new, and as her trainer, the fault lies more with him than her. Besides, he's noticed how hard she's been trying. Her eyes brighten at his words, and she grins, teasing him just a bit as she says he's actually a pretty nice guy after all. Kuroda sips his cold drink while Ikuta stares at him curiously. When he asks what's up, she suddenly blurts out, asking if he's single. Startled, he spits out his drink, flustered by the question. He manages to answer yes, of course he is. Ikuta playfully adds that she's single too, but unlike him, she's super popular. He snaps back, telling her to shut up, but doesn't deny her claim. With a mischievous smirk, she teases him again, wondering if someone as adorably cute as herself should become his girlfriend. He stammers, taken aback, asking if she's serious. She laughs, accusing him of taking it too seriously, and he begs her to stop the teasing. Later, after their shift ends, they walk together through the quiet evening streets. She sighs that it was a tough day, and he agrees, saying it was especially busy. Suddenly, she revisits their earlier conversation, asking if he at least has someone he likes. He replies that he doesn't currently, but he did like someone back in kindergarten. She eagerly presses him to reveal who it was, but he says he doesn't even remember her name. Just then, his phone buzzes with a message from Imagawa. Ikuta glances at the screen and raises an eyebrow, pointing out that he just got a message from a girl despite claiming he had no one. Kuroda, flustered again, insists she's not his girlfriend. She suddenly starts hitting him lightly, annoyed, but when he presses her on why she cares so much, she brushes him off and walks ahead. Over her shoulder, she remarks that if someone reunited with their old crush, that would be super romantic, right, senpai? He pauses, surprised, and admits that it would be kind of nice, though he doesn't see it happening. She keeps walking without saying anything, and Kuroda follows, worried he said something wrong. She stops to pet a nearby cat, crouching down with a soft smile. Watching her, Kuroda thinks how full of life she is. She glances back at him while stroking the cat and jokes that she can talk to cats, unlike him. He groans, wondering what nonsense she's on about now. A sudden rainfall hits as school ends, and Kuroda, glancing out the window, thinks it's best to head home before the weather worsens. While walking through the hallway, he catches sight of Shirakawa near the shoe lockers. A classmate approaches her, politely offering his umbrella, bowing slightly as he extends it. She smiles and gently declines, insisting she'll be fine and doesn't want him to get drenched on her behalf. The boy hesitates but eventually accepts her answer and walks off, clearly flustered by her kindness. Just then, Kuroda approaches and calls out to her. She pauses while putting on her shoes and nods at him. He asks if she's heading home now, and she confirms. As she turns to leave, he reminds her of their promise to walk home together. Her eyes widen slightly in surprise, but then a smile breaks through as she agrees. There's something warm and quiet in the way she responds, like she had been waiting for him to say it. The hallway clears out as the two step outside. He holds the umbrella between them, shielding her from the rain. She thanks him softly, and he brushes it off casually. Still in his mind, he's spiraling, wondering if people had seen them together, what they might assume. He had intentionally waited for most students to leave just to avoid attention. A part of him feels like a coward, but another part can't help but savor this moment, sharing an umbrella with her. Their steps match rhythmically on the wet pavement. She notices his shoulder getting damp and tugs him closer under the canopy, murmuring that it's not okay for him to get soaked. He tries to brush it off, but she gently pulls him toward her. The unexpected closeness makes his heart pound, and then, without warning, his hand grazes against her. He stiffens, face turning pale, completely thrown off by the situation. Right at that moment, Ikuta appears from the opposite direction, cheerfully greeting him with a grin. She comments on seeing him again today and jokes that since he's on shift, she gets to slack off. Her sudden arrival snaps him out of his panic, but now he's stuck between the two girls, drenched in awkwardness and regretfully aware that things just got way more complicated. Kuroda stares in confusion as Ikuta suddenly appears and waves off his question with a smug grin, rushing past his concern with a playful "don't sweat the small stuff." She turns her attention to Shirakawa, eyes narrowing with curiosity as she casually asks who she is. She responds politely, introducing herself as a classmate, and Ikuta quickly adds that she and Kuroda-senpai are coworkers. The air tightens and he immediately senses the tension building between them. Attempting to defuse the moment, he suggests they leave, but Ikuta suddenly brings up his relationship status, tossing out a pointed comment about him claiming to be single. Flustered, he spins around, denying everything, but she presses on, loudly questioning if Shirakawa is his girlfriend. Shirakawa, caught off guard, hesitates, clearly confused by the implication, while Kuroda realizes just how close they must look standing under one umbrella. Ikuta keeps pushing, reminding them she's known him longer, that they spend breaks together and walk home every evening. Shirakawa responds with quiet surprise, revealing that she's been to Kuroda's house, a detail that shocks Ikuta into silence. Kuroda winces as the situation spirals, but thankfully, Ikuta's phone rings. She curses under her breath, muttering it's the manager and hurries off to her shift. Left behind, he and Shirakawa stand awkwardly close under the umbrella. She looks away, voice soft, admitting she feels a bit jealous seeing how well Ikuta knows him. Unlike her, Ikuta seems to understand every side of him. Then she brings up the moment earlier when someone offered her an umbrella, asking if he saw it. He nods, unsure where this is going, but she explains that despite being recognized by everyone at school, she often doesn't even know who's approaching her, yet they act so familiar. Kuroda listens, realizing for someone constantly surrounded by people, she must feel surprisingly alone. She suddenly turns, grabs the front of his shirt, and looks him straight in the eye. Sharing an umbrella, walking home together, she says she wouldn't do these things with just anyone. That single moment leaves him stunned, unsure what to say, wondering if it means what he thinks it does. Before he can respond, a car comes speeding their way. He reacts instantly, yanking her toward him with a sharp warning. The vehicle rushes past, missing them by inches. He quickly lets go, apologizing with a nervous chuckle. She brushes it off, murmuring that it's that part of him then trails off without finishing. They begin walking again in silence. His thoughts spiral, realizing she's been acting differently ever since that accidental hug. After a pause, she brings up the summer festival. He says he usually just watches the fireworks from home and asks about her. She admits she either goes with her little sister or tags along if invited by friends. Then she gestures toward a nearby festival pamphlet, mentioning her sister wants to go. She lightly suggests that maybe he could join them, teasing that unless, of course, he doesn't want to go with a girl. He flusters, quickly denying it, saying he's just really happy. This is the first time someone's invited him. She giggles, clearly amused. He complains at her laughter, but she apologizes and repeats the offer. He agrees. She beams with joy, declaring it settled. As they near her home, she reminds him they'll meet on Sunday. He nods and turns to leave, but she suddenly calls out from behind. Her voice is playful as she says she's going to wear a yukata, so look forward to it. He waves back, trying to play it cool, but inside he's practically floating. On Sunday, the long-awaited festival day finally arrives, but before that, he has a stop to make. Remembering Imagawa's message about the light novel she promised to lend, he heads to her house that afternoon. Standing at her doorstep, he hesitates, checking his phone to send a message and wondering if she even remembers he's coming. Before he can type anything, the door swings open and she greets him enthusiastically. He thanks her, but before he can finish speaking, she grabs his hand and pulls him in. Though reluctant at first, saying he doesn't want to impose, she insists gently, adding that it would feel worse making him wait outside. Offering him a drink, she disappears into the house. As he steps inside, he notices something feels a little off about her today. Her energy is different. She asks if he's seen the new anime, then heads straight toward her room, motioning for him to follow. He hesitates, blurting that it might be a bit much to enter a girl's room. But she reassures him, saying if she really minded, she wouldn't have invited him in. With a soft blush, she adds that she's only doing this for him. Her voice lowers as she admits he's the first person she's ever allowed into her personal space. That comment leaves him flustered, and though he tries to play it cool, the truth is he's panicking just as much. It's his first time being in a girl's room too. Inside, the room is decked wall to wall with anime posters and shelves packed with light novels, clearly a dedicated otaku's haven. He looks around, genuinely impressed. She smiles, clearly pleased by his reaction, and asks if he really thinks so. Her room is packed with shelves lined in neat rows of light novels, games, and anime figures. He looks around, quietly stunned, thinking this really is an otaku paradise. She beams, flattered by his reaction, and starts pointing things out, the novels on one side, her figures and games on the other. He comments on how jealous he is of her setup, and casually picks up a familiar game. When she hears he's played it before, she lights up and offers to play together. Sitting on the floor with controllers in hand, they jump into a racing game. She wins the first round with ease, playfully boasting about it. Meanwhile, he can't focus, she moves a lot when playing, and he's too distracted to keep up. She doesn't catch on and challenges him again. Determined this time, he still loses, his attention clearly not where it should be. Embarrassed, he mutters something under his breath and calls for a break. She shrugs, content with her streak, but when he jokingly claims a moral victory, she pouts and pretends to tear up, insisting her winning streak is real. He sighs, thinking that even though he technically won, it still feels like a loss. After a while, the clock catches his eye. Not wanting to overstay, he says it's time he heads out. She jumps up, remembering the light novel she promised to lend him. As she hands it over, she smiles, saying she almost forgot because she was having so much fun. He echoes the same sentiment, genuinely grateful for the time spent. As she hands over a neatly packed bag, she hesitates for a moment before quietly confessing she's never felt this kind of connection with anyone else. Inside are the light novels she's lending him, stories she treasures deeply. He asks if it's really okay, and she nods, explaining that she's always been afraid to share her interests with others. But with him, it feels different. Lending these books is her first step toward opening up, and she hopes he'll enjoy them. Touched, he takes the bag with a small smile, thanking her sincerely. She suggests they talk about the books next time, and he agrees before heading out. Back in his room, he settles into his chair and checks his web novel account. A new direct message catches his eye. It's unusual. The sender compliments his latest chapter, especially the heroine's bravery in the final scene. Surprised by the heartfelt message, he replies with thanks. Another response comes almost instantly, gushing over a moment when the heroine's clothes get wet and how adorable her reaction was. He chuckles at the enthusiasm and responds again, grateful for the reader's detailed feedback. Then another message follows, this time more personal. The reader says they reached out because his work gave them the courage to speak to others and even call someone a friend. He responds kindly, saying such friendships are rare and valuable, and he's glad his writing could help. The reply is warm and supportive, promising to look forward to his next work. Inspired, he types back a heartfelt thank you, feeling more motivated than ever. Unknown to him, the reader is none other than Imagawa. She sits quietly, smiling at her screen, feeling a small victory in this silent connection. Meanwhile, he glances at his laptop, realizing that his writing truly touched someone. Cracking his knuckles, he straightens up and says to himself, it's time to start getting ready for the festival. Under the vibrant lights of the summer festival, Kuroda steps into the crowd, adjusting the collar of his yukata with a hint of unease. He scans his surroundings, thinking it might have been a mistake to come too early. The air buzzes with excitement, yet his thoughts drift. This is his first time wearing a yukata in years, and the self-conscious itch nags at him. Before he can linger in those thoughts, a hand suddenly clasps his, and a familiar voice cheerfully calls him senpai. Startled, he spins around and flinches when he sees Ikuta, her usual grin plastered on her face. He stammers, asking what she's doing here and telling her not to sneak up like that. She waves off his reaction, giggling that it was just a harmless prank, and suggests they stroll through the festival together. Trying to set boundaries, he mentions he's waiting for someone, but she brushes it aside, teasing that he looked bored standing all alone. Without giving him a chance to object, she drags him along through the crowd, stopping in front of a shooting game booth. With fierce determination, she picks up the toy rifle and starts firing at the stacked prizes, aiming repeatedly at a large teddy bear. Shot after shot misses the mark, and she puffs in frustration, claiming she's hit it more than 10 times. He folds his arms, murmuring that these stalls are rigged, but she tosses him the rifle, daring him to prove he can do better. Reluctantly, he accepts and fires. but the plush toy refuses to budge for him too. Her smirk widens, teasing that he's no better than she is. He scoffs that she couldn't do it either. With a sly smile, she lifts the rifle again, but instead of shooting, she walks up to the counter, beams sweetly at the shopkeeper, and softly asks for the bear, pointing it out with practiced charm. The man, clearly flustered by her approach, chuckles and says he can't refuse someone that cute. He hands over the plushie, and she hugs it proudly, turning back to Kuroda with a mischievous glint in her eyes. Holding the toy up beside her face, she asks which one he thinks is cuter. He looks forward, pausing with exaggerated thought, then calmly picks the plushie. Her jaw drops, shouting in disbelief, demanding to know why he chose the toy. He shrugs with a grin, clearly enjoying her flustered reaction. He casually mentions the plushie is from the most popular anime at the moment. That earns him a flurry of playful punches from her as she groans about how dense he is. He winces, telling her to stop hitting him. With a pout, she says she'll forgive him if he buys her candied strawberries. Before he can respond, she spots the stall and drags him along despite his protests. After devouring a mountain of candied fruits, they settle onto a nearby bench, shopping bags scattered at their feet. She remarks on how much they bought, and he points out that she's the one eating everything. She falls silent, eyes downcast. Concerned, he leans in, asking if something's wrong. Fingers tightening around her skirt, she mutters that he doesn't notice her cuteness at all, then quickly tries to brush it off. He calls her name, but she turns away, only to spin back around, grinning and biting into a candy stick. He yelps, realizing she tricked him, and she laughs, saying he totally fell for it. He sighs in defeat. She shifts topics, asking if the takoyaki was good. He nods, saying it was. Looking around, he remarks how many people are wearing yukatas. She comments that he's one of them, but he counters that her casual outfit is actually refreshing. It suits her. The sudden compliment makes her cheeks burn as she yells that she should have worn a yukata too. He asks if it meant that much to her, and she pouts, saying he's the only one her cuteness has no effect on. It's maddening. He chuckles, finally understanding. She jumps to her feet, eyes fierce with new determination. Standing proudly before him, she declares that she'll become so cute even he won't be able to ignore it. He better be ready. Before he can react, her friends call from the distance, saying they've been looking all over for her. He's surprised she came with friends. She casually admits she just snuck away for a bit, to hang out with a lonely, pitiful senpai. Tossing a grin over her shoulder, she adds a playful "see you at work," while he watches her go, smiling to himself. She really is a handful,